England's soccer hooligan. Paul Scarrott from Nottingham is the first English fan to be expelled from the World Cup. He'd been charged with no offence. The decision to deport him was in response to a blacklist provided by British police of known hooligans with a record of violence. The government here says it's delighted that 15 months of hard work and cooperation is paying off.
Paul Scarrott has a string of convictions for football hooliganism. Earlier this year, magistrates in his home city of Nottingham banned him from every local stadium for 2 years. He's already been banned from Nottingham Forest's ground for life. He appears to revel in his notoriety and made no secret of his presence in Italy, where he arrived 2 or 3 weeks ago. Italian police are on the lookout for England's more notorious followers and arrested him at Rome's main railway station. Scarrott was one of a number of known hooligans whose names and pictures are on police computer files. Compiled by this country's National Football Intelligence Unit, with information coming from police videos of hooligans in action, the files have been made available to Italian authorities to try to stop trouble before it starts. Scarrott is the first to be caught and sent home, although yesterday 3 others were jailed for 20 days for vandalism. With the World Cup kicking off in just 3 days' time, the authorities there are taking a tough line with those who threaten to disrupt it.
Today, one spent 2 hours in police detention after failing to produce identification. This, in the absence of free temporary accommodation, could prove to be Cagliari's biggest dormitory. Yet those sleeping on the beach risk arrest for vagrancy, while those on the streets, without a bed for the night or enough money to pay for one, have nowhere else to go, despite official requests.
The British government has actually asked the Italians if there was anything they could do to help in this way, and the local authorities have said there simply are not the facilities available.
And at England's friendly match this afternoon in Oristano, proof that tickets for the World Cup are freely available on the black market. Officially, they're on sale through a national bank on proof of identity. Unofficially, it's £75 for England's 3 matches on the island.
The chap on the pole who was selling to us on the black market got the tickets from the bank. It was just outside the bank. He went in to the bank, bought the ticket, stole the door.
Stories like that are just what the Football Association and the British government don't want to hear, though they'll be pleased to see just how seriously the Italian authorities are taking stadium security. There are no more than 20 English fans here. The police were clearly expecting hundreds. England won the match and friends in Oristano, the final score 10-2. But off the pitch, it seems there are real problems ahead. Rob Bonnet, BBC News.
Is back in Britain after being deported from the World Cup in Italy. He'll be met by police officers as his plane touches down. 34-year-old Paul Scarrott, who's from Nottingham, has been jailed more than a dozen times for soccer violence. He was picked up today at Rome's main railway station, and police say will deport him as soon as possible. Yesterday, Scarrott told English newspaper journalists that he was preparing to launch all-out war on rival soccer fans.
Before the start of the World Cup, Paul Scarrott, who's got more than 40 convictions for football violence, had been under surveillance by police since he arrived in Italy 10 days ago.
The authorities are claiming it as their first victory after months of planning to stop British hooligans wrecking the World Cup. Paul Scarrott, the self-proclaimed hooligan leader, being deported from Italy after being arrested at Rome's railway station, where he'd been found wandering around carrying a half-empty bottle of wine. Despite his arrest, he remained defiant.
We will invade Italy, but we will be friendly with Italy.
Police say they've been tracking his movements since he arrived in Italy 10 days ago. And a senior officer explained he was being deported because of his past record. A British dossier on Paul Scarrott in front of the officer told the tale of how he'd been caught. A result of cooperation between the Italian police and the British National Football Intelligence Unit, whose head tonight said Paul Scarrott's deportation won't necessarily be the last.
The unit have been monitoring Paul Scarrott and his actions, his movements about this country for some considerable time now, and we were well aware when he went to Italy about 10 days ago, and we continued our monitoring operation. So we knew where he was and what he was up to, and we passed a considerable amount of intelligence about this man to the Italian policing authorities.
The intelligence unit aren't the only ones pleased at the action taken against Scarrott.
He's been arrested 14 times. Anybody who gets into that level of trouble has got to be an idiot. However, if he's looking for publicity, he's got the right sort of publicity. He's been deported, and he's allowing us to get through to the message to those who might want to cause a little bit more bother.
Within the last hour, Paul Scarrott arrived at Heathrow Airport, where the police whisked him away through a back door. What's happened to him?
Yes, he's been arrested at Heathrow Airport on his arrival here this evening, sir. And he's now being taken to Heathrow Police Station.
The authorities are clearly delighted that the first hooligan scalp they've claimed is also the best known, and the timing may not be accidental. This is the week in which most fans will travel to the World Cup. The government will hope that what's happened to Paul Scarrott will prove to those planning trouble that they won't be allowed to get away with it.
One soccer hooligan is set to get a hot reception when he arrives back in Britain after being deported from the World Cup in Italy. He'll be met by police officers as his plane touches down. 34-year-old Paul Scarrott, who's from Nottingham, has been jailed more than a dozen times for soccer violence. He was picked up today at Rome's main railway station, and police say they'll deport him as soon as possible. Yesterday, Scarrott told English newspaper journalists that he was preparing to launch all-out war on rival soccer fans. The lorry driver held